April 22nd, 2015 from the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. It was Game 2 from the Round 1 2015 NBA playoff matchup between the San Antonio Spurs and the Los Angeles Clippers. And early on in the first quarter, it was a pretty tight game, but the Spurs led after one by 4 with the score 28-24. Then in the second quarter, the Clippers would take the lead at one point, but the Spurs would end up going into halftime up by 5. Tim Duncan with a couple shots at the end of the first half, and it was 52-47 Spurs over the Clippers at the half. Then the third quarter, the Clippers would take the lead at the end of the third quarter by 1, but then Patty Mills comes up with a big 3 to give the lead back to the Spurs. Jamal Crawford then tied it up, and then Mills with another 3-pointer as the third quarter came to a close, and the Spurs were up by 3, 77-74. Then in the fourth quarter, the Spurs would end up going up by as many as 10 points, but then as the fourth quarter was coming to a close, the Spurs started doing the Hackett Shaq. It was Hackett Jordan, and the Clippers just couldn't make a free throw to save their life. But then finally, Redick ends up getting to the line, and he ended up tying up the game. Then Belinelli gets a deuce, and at this point, Parker had left the game earlier in the second half due to injury, and Ginobili had fouled out the game. But Blake Griffin ended up tying the game up with the layup, and then Chris Paul ends up drawing a foul, and he hit both shots. So now the Clippers were up by 2 with the score 94-92 with less than a minute left to play. But then Patty Mills with less than 10 seconds left would end up getting a foul, getting fouled, and he goes to the line, he hits both shots, and it was tied at 94. And then some missed shots by the Clippers, and the game would go to overtime as it was tied at 94 through regulation. So now in the overtime period, to start things off, Danny Green nails a long tray, and it was 97-94 Spurs. Then Blake Griffin draws a foul, he hit both shots, and it was a 1-point game, 97-96. But then Patty Mills with a long deuce, and now it was back to a 3-point lead for the Spurs, 99-96. Then Griffin comes back on the other end and made it a 1-point game, 99-98. Then Tim Duncan gets a 2-point shot to make it 101-98. And then Redick drops a long 3, and it was 101-101. So back to a tie game, 2.5 minutes left in overtime. Then under 2 minutes, Tim Duncan, he hits a shot falling down. No foul on the play, but the shot drops. And so it was 103-101. And then Matt Barnes misses a 3-pointer. Kawhi Leonard with the rebound. Kawhi Leonard tosses it the length of the court. And Patty Mills gets the layup to make it a 4-point lead for the Spurs. So the Clippers take a timeout. Coming out of the timeout, Blake Griffin driving the lane, and he just lets go of the ball. So then it ends up Boris Diaw's hands, and Kawhi Leonard on the other end with the layup, and now it was 107-101 as the Spurs led by 6 in overtime with less than a minute left to play. Clippers take another timeout, and coming out of the timeout, Chris Paul buries the tray, and it was back to a 3-point game, 107-104. But then Patty Mills would end up drawing a foul, going to the line after a missed 3 by Redick. And so then after Mills hit both free throws, it was 109-104. Clippers take another timeout. And then the inbounds, Redick inbounds it. He gets the ball back, and he puts up a very contested 3-point shot. It drops, and it was a 2-point game, 109-107. Now the Spurs take a timeout. But then Patty Mills draws the foul. He hits the first shot. He hits the second. Now it's 111-107. Blake Griffin throws up a 3, and it would not drop. And the Spurs hold on to win by 4, 111-107. And the Spurs are the first team to actually split a series in these NBA playoffs here in the first round, as all other matchups are 2-0. So in the East, all 4 matchups are 2-0, and in the West, the other 3 matchups are 2-0. But here with the Spurs and the Clippers, it's split at 1 game apiece. And Blake Griffin had a triple-double in the losing effort, but the Spurs come through in overtime without Parker, without Ginobili, And for the Spurs, they had two starters scoring double digits, and that was Duncan and Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi Leonard had 23 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Tim Duncan, 28 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. He had a double-double. Then Patty Mills off the bench came up huge in this game. 18 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. Boris Diaw, 1 rebound shy of a double-double. He had 12 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block off the bench. Ginobili had 9 points as well before fouling out. He also had 2 rebounds and 3 assists. Belinelli, 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 steal in the game. Danny Green, 9 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists. For the Clippers, it said Blake Griffin with a triple-double, but it wouldn't be enough. They almost took this game, although they were down by double digits in the fourth. They did force overtime, but 29 points for Griffin, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 steal, and a block. Chris Paul, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. DeAndre Jordan with a double-double, 20 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And J.J. Redick, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. And Jamal Crawford off the bench, 11 points, 4 boards, and 1 assist. But the real difference in this game was the free throw shooting, is the Clippers only shot 54.1% from the foul line. That's abysmal, hitting only 20 of 37 shots from the free throw line, whereas the Spurs hit 19 of 26 for a 73.1% free throw shooting. The Spurs shot 46.2% from the field versus 42.4% for the Clippers. And the Spurs hit 8 of 25 three-pointers for 32%, 31% for the Clippers, 9 of 29. Although Redick 4 of 9 and Chris Paul 3 of 5. But Barnes just 1 of 6 and Crawford just 1 of 7. The Clippers actually had more rebounds, 55 rebounds to 48. In 26 to 23, the Spurs edged out the Clippers in assists. They also had 8 steals versus just 5, and each team had 6 blocks. This is the big difference, the free throw shooting. Of course, in overtime, that's what it really came down to. And in overtime, the Spurs just coming up clutch, and they got a big performance from their bench. As Diaw and Mills combined for 30, and overall their bench had 48 points in this game. So the Spurs end up tying this series as they end up winning this one in overtime, as it's now tied with 1 game apiece. And the final score in Game 2, San Antonio 111, Los Angeles 107.